Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for coming to this very important meeting of the City Council as we do the people's work. First of all, let me start off by saying happy 240th birthday to the United States Marine Corps. Oh, that's right. That's right. Also want to say happy belated birthday to someone up here who's not quite 240 years old. Our city manager, Dr. Lydia Patton, just had her birthday on Sunday. Right. And we also have with us today our new city attorney, Mr. Solomon Ashby. Would you please give him a round of applause? And so that I don't mess up and mix it, I see School Board Member Ted Lamb here in attendance. Mr. Lamb, could you please stand? Thank you. Oh, he's already standing. Couldn't find a seat, huh? That's right. And we also have our newly elected delegate from Portsmouth, Steve Hurtig. Would you stand, sir? Welcome. Okay, now at this time, council members, would you please stand for the invocation who will be given by Pastor Larry Ugarte from First Lutheran Church, and then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And to the audience and to everyone, this is Pastor Ugarte's 39th year, Pastor? 36th year, and he will be retiring December 31st. Yes, and we want to wish you well in your retirement and thank you for all you've done, sir. Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of council, ladies and gentlemen, let us pray. O God of wisdom and truth, as this city council gathers to deliberate and decide on matters so important to the present and future well-being of Portsmouth, we ask you bless and guide its members through the grace of your Spirit. Help them each to set aside petty concerns, that together they might best serve the common good of Portsmouth residents and honor the purposes for which they were elected. Prince of Peace, this week we also lift up to you all veterans who have stood in harm's way to protect our loved ones and us. Bless and keep our guardians of liberty and their loved ones, just as they have blessed us and ours with their service in the name of freedom. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members of the City Council, please indicate your presence electronically.
7 members of City Council are present.
Okay, thank you. Members of the City Council, you have before your consideration the minutes of a call meeting of October the 26th, 2015, a call meeting of October 27th, 2015, and a regular meeting of October the 27th, 2015. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Move adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. The minutes are adopted 7-0.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 3 minutes to speak, and please forgive the error on your printed agenda. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 3 minutes, you will see a green light. 2 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 3 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments. Public hearing, 15-389. Public hearing on a rezoning and street name change applications. A, Z1505, Victory Village. Robert C. Barclay IV, representing Victory Crossing Developers II, LLC, is requesting to rezone approximately 56 acres from mixed-use employment center conditional to mixed-use general mixed use conditional for a residential and commercial development to be called the Commons at Portsmouth Center. The property is located east of Victory Boulevard, north of Greenwood Drive, west of McLean Street, and south of Interstate 264, and has been previously called Victory Village. The proposed development is for 292 apartments with a density of up to 16 units per acre and potentially over 300,000 square feet of office, commercial, and retail space. The property is designated as mixed-use employment on the Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map and is owned by Victory Crossing Developers II, LLC, the City of Portsmouth Economic Development Authority, and Lucas Hospitality, LLC. Vision principle, a robust economy for working men and women. Electronic roll call, and I have several speakers. Our first we have a report from Mr. Hartley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, my name is John Hartley, Planning Administrator with the City Planning Department. As you just heard from the clerk, this is a rezoning. It's 56 acres of essentially vacant land, or it's now essentially vacant land. This property was at one time called Alexander Park. It was a project built in 1942 by the federal government for housing, and later on in about 1983 changed owners, and it was called Fairwood Homes, which was closed in about 2002. The city acquired about 104 acres of that back originally in 1997. And the balance of the property was bought by L.M. Sandler and is now part of the Newport project. And that is a very, very quick sketch of the history of the property. On the screen, you have an aerial photo of the area that we're talking about. The heavy line is the area generally referred to as Victory Village. TCC, Tidewater Community College campus, is a part of this property and consists of about 35 acres. There's also some land that the Economic Development Authority continues to own that is now occupied by stormwater management facilities. The original plan, the latest plan, I should say, that's on the books is on the screen. Part of that is the Newport development, which, as I said, was a project that was proposed and being constructed by L.M. Sandler. It consisted about 208 acres with over 1,600 units, and it was approved as a planned community with a variety of different housing types, design standards, and a fairly high standard of design detail and the mix of the units. And you can see some of that in these pictures, this collage of pictures of what's been built to date. Because of the recession, that project is somewhat in a holding pattern, but I would emphasize that the zoning that is in place requires this form of development to continue until you as City Council change what the requirements are for the development of that property. The other key resource and property in the area is the Tidewater Community College itself. And again, there are a collage of pictures of the campus itself. It is a fairly well-planned campus. There was great effort taken both in the location of the buildings, preserving some of the existing trees, and putting together a unified development of the property. I show you all of those as somewhat of a contrast to what is proposed for you tonight. There are essentially three parts to the application that you have on your agenda tonight. There are the design guidelines, which was the thick book with all of the details about how the property would be developed. There is the master plan, which is the plan on the right. And then the third piece is the proffered conditions, and those are essentially the conditions that the developers offered to go with the development of the property. Staff worked with the master development team for quite some time, and to get these three pieces to you to consider. You have the staff report, which goes into much more detail than I would want to go into here. But there are 5 areas of concern, major issues that staff has identified with this rezoning application. The first is what staff has termed the areas of special concern. This property adjoins Victory Boulevard and McLean, as well as the TCC campus, and we view these as areas where special attention needs to be taken in terms of the architecture, the site design, the site furniture, et cetera, in terms of how it impacts those resources. And so we had talked a number of times with the development team about focusing in on these areas of special concern. There are a few bits and pieces. For example, in the proffered conditions, they agreed no standalone restaurants with drive-throughs. But for the most part, there's not a special set of standards that would apply to these areas. And in the opinion of staff and in turn the commission, they really didn't address these special areas of concern in their application. The second area issue is the intensity of development. What is on the books and was approved in 2007 contains about 1 million square feet of office retail space. What is proposed before you tonight is a reduction of that to about 300,000 square feet. Wow. In addition to the apartments. It's our opinion that this property could handle substantially more development than what's currently proposed. Maybe not the 1 million, but at least something more that's a little bit more robust, and certainly a better tax base in the long term for the city. The third area is an integrated master plan, and as planners, we love to get our hands on large pieces of property because you can master plan and you can create a sense of community throughout that entire area by a number of techniques. I picked, this slide picks on one particular area which you could call the streetscape or the street furniture, landscaping, lighting, signage. Certainly architecture, if you look at TCC, is another tool that can be used to create an integrated development. I also mentioned trails and open spaces and creating a planned system of all of those pieces that gives you a sense of place. And it's the staff's opinion that the proposed rezoning in front of you tonight doesn't go as far as we believe it should in that arena. Fourth issue is the building materials. The existing zoning is very specific about what materials would be allowed in all of the buildings that are built on the property. The zoning before you tonight, the request to rezone it, expands that to include cementitious siding and heavy gauge vinyl, something that we haven't been particularly favorable towards at the staff level. The fifth item on the slide, it says ownership and maintenance, and that really deals with the restrictive covenants that are on the property and how all of the property owners in that area share in the costs of maintaining the improvements that aren't owned by the city. There are restrictive covenants that go with this property. In staff's opinion, they haven't been part of the sunshine or the dialogue in relationship to this rezoning that at least certainly I've felt it should be. That's a very, very quick overview of this rezoning. The staff recommended denial, In turn, the Planning Commission at their meeting in October recommended denial with a tie vote of 3-3. Essentially, a tie vote means that there's not a majority opinion. Therefore, in this case, it was a recommendation to deny. With that, I'll try to answer any questions. I know there are a number of people here from the development team that may want to speak as well. So,
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Mr. Hardy, how you doing?
not too bad, Mr.
You mentioned a few things I want to follow up on here. You mentioned the original plan for Newport or Victory. How many houses did you say was planned for that area? 1,600?
With the Newport development alone, which is really the residue of the Fairwood Homes property, it's about 208 acres. It was over 1,600 units.
How many do we have today?
In that development,
Would 150?
something like that, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what time span does that involve?
I'm trying to count, but yeah, it's been 8-9 years, I think, that they've been developing that. Maybe 2007,
Yeah,
6, 7.
at least,
Yeah.
maybe even longer than that. The other thing, you mentioned TCC a couple of times, and certainly any project that comes to that area, I think, has to complement TCC and their mission out there. As you know, that's quite a large investment for the city. And in fact, we were fortunate that we didn't have to pay for any of the infrastructure there. You may have still been in Alawite County at the time. I don't think you were here, but that did happen. But it brings to question, how does TCC feel about this project?
They have not participated with the staff or the city.
Now, I didn't ask you whether they've participated
But-
with the staff. I asked you.
And we have not heard any formal comments from them. The development team may have something to add to that, and you might want to ask them that question.
Okay, well, the question's on the floor. Anybody who can answer it? Because I deem that a very important question, since they're very important to our city.
Please.
Sure. And is the what did the letter say? Can somebody answer that?
Let's let the letter circulate over.
No, no, Mr. Hartley indicated that that maybe TCC wasn't too keen on this project, so I'm very innocently asking the question, are they or aren't they?
I think my comments were more oriented towards the staff's view.
I'm interested in TCC.
But in terms of what I indicated before, it was the staff's perspective towards TCC, not TCC's position.
My first peruse of this seems to indicate that they don't have a problem with the project. Also, Mr. Hartley, you mentioned that there were concerns on some of the building materials and some of the detail. You specifically mentioned Hardy Plank. That's a product I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Seems like not too many years ago we were beating the drum on how nice Westbury was built, and I remember the builder bringing a piece of Hardy Plank to this council chamber and say, this is the product of the future. It lasts long, it's durable, much better product than vinyl. Is staff changed, or is that your personal preference that all of a sudden it's not too good?
The current design standards that apply to the property as it's zoned today does not allow Hardy Plank or any form of vinyl. The design standards that are before you tonight for consideration does allow Hardy Plank and does allow a heavy gauge vinyl. We are pointing out the difference in those materials. Staff views that as a reduction in the quality of the materials. That's not to say we're opposed to hardy plank.
So that's a subjective statement.
When you go from architectural metal and brick to heavy gauge vinyl,
I'm talking about hardy
with no,
plank.
well, and hardy plank, I have hardy plank on my house, so I'm somewhat biased about hardy plank. But when you start talking heavy gauge vinyl and you don't differentiate the quantities that can be used in a particular design, in theory, you end up with 100% heavy gauge vinyl,
And
potentially.
every project that I've seen, there's a lot of dialogue between the developer and staff, and at times even citizen input. And those things are usually worked out with the developer. I know that was the case with the Kroger Center. At one time, I think we were going to require them to have a two-story grocery store, which would have been the first in the nation and maybe the world, where you go upstairs to buy groceries. But obviously that was worked out and that was resolved. As staff met with the developer to work out any details, and how's that dialogue been?
Staff worked with the development team, the master developer team, for at least 18 months, if not 2 years. We reviewed 3 sets of design standards, commented on those 3 sets of design standards. Many of the comments we made were not taken to heart. So when I mentioned the areas of special concern, the highway corridors and the TCC campus, that's something that was repeated in all 3 reviews of the design standards.
You know, you mentioned the TCC campus again, but we seem to have more concern than the president of TCC, who took time to write a letter saying that they're all right with the project. The highways, I don't think they're going anywhere. In fact, most people view the access to 264 a plus. What's the tax contribution to this project potentially?
I believe there's information in the staff packet. I don't have that at the top of my mind. There was a point that I was going to make. According to the assessor's office, the annual local tax revenue is about $842,902, based on the city assessor's estimates.
Okay, so approaching $900,000 annualized. Okay, that's all the questions I have at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Our first speaker is Mrs. Lisa Lucas Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Hartley. Well done.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor.
Little mic.
Sorry. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Vice Mayor, honorable members of council, and visiting guests. I am Lisa Lucas Burke, and I'm a resident with my husband at 1541 Rotunda Avenue in the Crystal Lake community of Portsmouth. I am a Portsmouth businesswoman, a committed community servant in the capacity as chairwoman of the Economic Development Authority, immediate past president of the Portsmouth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, past member of Girls Inc. Center for Youth, and a member of several PAC-affiliated committees throughout the city. So it goes without saying that I love the city of Portsmouth. My purpose before you today is as chairwoman of the Economic Development Authority Board, to which I am pleased to have had the council's authority and appointment since 2010. It is therefore that if any other EDA commissioners are here with me tonight, if you would stand. Thank you. Commissioner Hines is with me tonight. Okay, thank you. As a matter of history, prior to my term as a commissioner, the EDA issued a request for proposal of a business park in 2003 at the Victory Village site. And 1 year later, 2004, an agreement with TCC was made. In 2007, the council rezoned the business park to a mixed-use option, at which time the recession hit, and it lasted for several years until 2010, when CCC property came available. We know that rezoning is necessary at times so that properties can be remarketed and attract development interests. This current situation is no exception. During our June 16, 2015 meeting of the EDA, an agenda item relative to the Victory Village rezoning application was presented to the EDA commissioners for consideration. I and other commissioners present heard the presentation from Mr. Cross, and we pondered the information that was given, and the rezoning application was issued. In that staying, the members of the EDA, it was our understanding that the approval of an application was needed in order to move forward with the project. So I attended some meetings of the council, not the council, I'm sorry, the planning commission, and was given this information that the gentleman, Mr. Hartley, just presented to us. So we didn't have all of the information about all of the details of the Hartley plank and whatever else is needed. But everybody is interested in seeing something go forward in the city, and the EDA is no exception. So it is my hope that the rezoning application be looked at favorably. And if not, just let us do something where we can work together and get something coming out of the ground.
Thank you very much, Ms. Burke.
Mr. Robert Barclay.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Robert Barclay. My business address is 200 High Street, Suite 500, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23704. And I'm here tonight as the attorney for the master developer, Victory Crossing Developers. I think the staff report went through a lot of the history of what's happened with this property. A few highlights I just want to hit is that the environment in which the current zoning was placed on the property was the middle of the last decade. And that was one of the most unprecedented real estate booms that the United States has ever experienced. Things that were possible or perceived as possible in that environment just aren't possible in today's economic environment. The Great Recession brought about a massive change in what can be done on property. And what we're proposing today is a very viable project. I'll have some subsequent speakers, including an economist from Old Dominion, who can talk about what can be sustained in that area and what is possible. And I'd like to just point out a parallel property. In the Harborview section of North Suffolk, there's a large parcel of property between Interstate 664 and Harborview Boulevard. At about the same time period in 2007, the City Council in Suffolk zoned that for a high-density town center, very similar to what is currently zoned for this property. It became apparent after years of trying that there were no takers to develop that property as a high-density town center like this property zoned. And so as a result, the City Council there rezoned it to a project very similar to this, which is a combination of multifamily apartment housing, medical office, and retail. And more than likely, the retail is grocery anchored, because that's what creates the foot traffic, which brings people to the site and can make it successful and create spin-offs. And so I see that project and this project is very similar. And now construction's begun on that property. They're turning dirt, the streets and roads are going in, and apartments are going to be going up very soon, and additional commercial development. So I think to sum up, where things were in 2005-06 are very different from where they are in 2015 and 2016. And I think if this property has any prospect of being developed in the next decade, a project that is inconsistent with what is proposed tonight is what would succeed on the property. Just to sum up, the other speakers that are coming behind me, Dr. Larry Fowler is an economist from Old Dominion, Susan Jones is with Colliers International. She is a senior vice president for real estate development and is the chief real estate broker marketing the project now. And the two architects on the project, John Kraus and Burl Saunders, will also speak. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Larry Filer, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm here tonight for this project, but in a more broader sense. I was approached by the developers because of my expertise in urban development and urban planning and the research that we do over at Old Dominion on those particular issues, just to simply examine this particular parcel of land and think about what this plan was and how it might fit into the surrounding area. So essentially, after an analysis of that, this project does in fact tick off three pretty important parts when it comes to urban development. The number one and most important is perhaps the literature that exists on the massive gaps in food access for areas such as the one surrounding Victory Village. Currently, there are two main grocery stores. There's a Farm Fresh to the north of the project and a Food Lion to the south. And so the council may say, well, you know, we've already got a couple in there. Yeah, the one thing that I noticed in my analysis of the 5 census tracts surrounding this area is that 908 households, and this is just an estimate, 908 of the households are without a car in the 5 census tracts surrounding this. So according to the U.S. Food Trust, ultimately they recommend that in those types of situations, an urban area have a grocery store access within 1 mile. And from the heart of the Cavalier Manor area and from the heart of the Truxton neighborhood, that doesn't exist. So technically, according to the U.S. Food Trust, we would classify these areas as what the U.S. Food Trust would refer to as food deserts. It doesn't mean that it's a terrible environment. It just means that both are outside. They're about 1.5 miles, I think, from the heart of those neighborhoods. The other issue here is the rental stock. One of the other nice components of the project is affordable rental. I do believe this area needs some affordable rental. It sounds as if the only debate here is how much of that. I think we all might agree that needs to be dictated by the market and perhaps not by just what we would like to see. And then finally, there's the work where you live component. This property does, or this plan proposal does have some office area as well. I recognize that, you know, there's tremendous ambitions by council for this property, and I would urge you to do that. I mean, the intelligence without ambition is a bird without wings. But, however, you have to keep in mind the economic realities. So as an economist, it's imperative on me, if any students of mine would ever see this, that I urge you to exercise constrained optimization, perhaps in this environment, getting the best you can out of it, given the current economic circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Susan Jones.
Good evening. My name is Susan Jones. I'm Senior Vice President and Director of Retail Brokerage for Colliers International, a commercial real estate brokerage firm with offices in Norfolk and Richmond. I've been fortunate to be involved with the former Victory Village project for the past 18 months. And I'm excited to be a part of such a dynamic project in the city of Portsmouth. During that time, I have worked closely with the developers and Portsmouth Economic Development Authority on strategizing the current highest and best use for the project. As part of our strategy, we have updated and renamed the project the Commons at Portsmouth Center to more accurately define the location and significance of the development. It's my understanding this project has been marketed under the current zoning since 2007 with minimal success. The existing zoning requires a significant office component, and according to the office professionals in my firm, the office sector is soft and will no longer support this type of development. Additionally, it's our opinion, as well as that of our partners on this project, that the density requirements of the current zoning are not supportable in today's environment. This past spring, I attended the annual convention of the International Council of Shopping Centers, the top trade association of shopping centers and retailers in the world. My associates and I pitched the project to many retailers, and the feedback we received led to the following conclusion. An anchor tenant will be required to drive the rest of the desired retails to this project. Retailers want to be with compatible businesses where they're driving customers to and from each other, and a lead tenant heading the pack. The retail category that stood out in our discussions was a neighborhood grocery store. The neighborhood grocery store is a smaller, community-oriented grocer catering to the consumer who is looking for quality yet affordable goods. These stores will enhance the grocery offerings in this underserved market by providing fresh, organic produce along with other healthy choices within walking distance of nearby neighborhoods. Tidewater Community College has expressed their support of our plan, and their faculty and student body will also benefit from this new and exciting grocery model at their front door. Once we have the significant anchor tenant, we will be able to attract other desired retailers to the project. And with this new zoning, we firmly believe that we can be successful and deliver a first-class development with a well-rounded roster of tenants. It's our opinion that this rezoning request is the best hope for the success of the Commons at Portsmouth Center in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. John Kraus.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm John Kraus. I'm planner, architect with my partner Burl on this project. We've done many projects throughout the country, doing design guidelines and planning, and responding to the master plans have to respond to economic conditions. And part of what you see here is the response to economic conditions to make it viable. I want to address some of the prior comments from John Hartley. We very much looked at the residential units facing TCC that he pointed out as a concern. We show that in the design guidelines, we're expecting at least 50% brick with the other cementitious siding to go along with it. So we addressed that interface along Victory Boulevard. We've designed a upscale entry off of Victory Boulevard, announcing your entrance into the park. We also have a nature trail that goes around that lake in the middle, with little places, benches and things like that for the residents and the people that work there, as well as perhaps the students at TCC to use. So we have those components in that they have addressed as concerns. The design guidelines basically address street design standards, architectural design standards, landscape, and signage. They're all special components that help blend together and create the fabric, the design that pulls together the whole park as one, allowing for buildings to use different colored brick, different types of siding, and different proportions and shapes. But we dictate also that you can't have a wall run more than 30 feet without bumping in or out 2 feet, so it breaks up the facade. It's not just one blank wall. So we have the desire to break up the massing of the buildings, to create the sort of synergy in this. Not only that, but the design guidelines, if the developer wants to propose vinyl siding, he has to get planning director approval. And with the impending user permit that you're considering for residential development, council will also get the chance to weigh in on those types of projects. We did the design guidelines in response to, from the master plan we originally had, it was no longer viable to develop two and 3 story retail buildings. It just wasn't going to happen. And so we asked to not do a rezoning, but rather to redo the design guidelines to make it so that it was possible to develop something. It was planning department's suggestion that we go for the rezoning and consequently the redoing of the design guidelines. So in response to that, we're here today to do just that. And during the process, we worked extensively with planning department as well as economic development authority in terms of coming through with the revisions that we made. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Burl Saunders.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and city council members. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. This is an important district in Portsmouth. You've got some really interesting anchors in place already. The fact to have you have Tidewater Community College and the investment here is a major positive for this piece of property. The other thing I'd like to point out is that quality infrastructure has been put in here. Over $4 million worth of roads, brick sidewalks, really upscale landscaping has already been put in place to work with. What we're finding, our company, my company, Saunders Krause Architects, we're involved with multiple mixed-use projects throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia and the United States. And everywhere with the economy, we're finding that there's changing trends with office parks. For instance, I have here with me the Business Journal, Washington Business Journal, and the title is "The Office Park is a Relic." D.C. and all the surrounding counties, Montgomery County, are finding that they're having large vacancies, and they're looking at how do they reinterpret those spaces to be usable for their citizens and their economic tax base. And one of the ways they're doing that is to make a mixed use. That is to bring in the retail and the housing and then the office to combine it all, and the education. Education is a significant component that happens to be here. Many of these jurisdictions are having to actually subsidize these facilities, as you did with donating the land. So in this time and this important opportunity to advance this particular district, to also hopefully help advance the surrounding Newport, which is zoned for 1,600 units and needs to be moving forward. The execution of a quality environment that has these facilities that support the lifestyle of the people living in that community is extremely important, and it will have an effect across the street behind this area and to the west and east. So I ask you to really think and consider that point. One other point I'd like to make in terms of quality, the intent here is to do a quality development, and there's some discussion about the hardy plank and vinyl, heavy vinyl, which I would like to point out that in Freemason Harbor, in the section of Norfolk, that heavy vinyl was used in those very high-end apartments that have been very successful for years. East Beach, if you're familiar with that, is essentially all hardy plank, along with brick and other materials. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker?
Yes, I have a question. I don't know if Mr. Hartley can answer it, but
John, would you come in?
I don't know if the information is in your packet. When that property was purchased, that was purchased through the EDA?
I believe so, yes.
Was it purchased below market rate?
I have no idea of what the transaction was or what the price point was. I wish I could answer your question, but I just don't.
The proposed rents, are they lower than what was originally proposed, or are the rents the same? With the new development that's being proposed, are the rents the same?
I'm not aware of any rent figures that were provided in the prior rezoning, and I have not seen any rent figures for the proposed rezoning. Okay, so that.
Well, is there anyone from the development team that can answer that?
Thank you.
What I'm told is the apartments would have market rate rents. In other words, they'd be driven by the marketplace. There's no, there would be no incentive financing involved. It would be conventionally financed, and therefore the rents would have to sustain the project at the market rates.
So you're still at a market rate project as originally planned?
Correct.
You're just scaling back now on the original product?
Yeah, I mean, I believe the apartments aren't changing a great deal. The number of apartment units that are set aside are about the same as in the old plan, in the neighborhood of 300 units. In the previous plan of town center type development, it was envisioned that the commercial properties would also have residences in them. You might have a building that was 3 or 4 stories, and it could have commercial on the first floor and then residential units above it. So those were additional rental units above and beyond what was in the apartment complexes. The apartment complexes themselves, I believe, are pretty much as they were under the original plan. Under the existing zoning, what was foreseen is you might have a situation like, if you remember, on one of the streets in downtown Norfolk, there was a building built that had a Farm Fresh on the first floor, and then there were residences above that. Ultimately, that didn't work, and the Farm Fresh left that space. But that was what's envisioned, and that's really what is no longer feasible in the marketplace. When you're looking at these town centers like Oyster Point and Newport News, you are seeing some of the residences filled, but the commercial space on their first floor is empty. That's why Oyster Point's struggling. Even Virginia Beach Town Center is having difficulty leasing spaces on the first floor. But in terms of the apartments, essentially it's the same product. What the residences that are different is we've eliminated the residences that would be above commercial properties. They've been scaled down from 3- and 4-story buildings to 1-story buildings.
So these are the same original materials that were going to be used on the original proffer?
I believe, well, before, there was no leeway at all for any heavy gauge vinyl. I believe under the prior design guidelines. Under these design guidelines, it could be used, but that would be subject to the approval of the design review committee that the Economic Development Authority has, and also would be subject to the approval of City Council if you enact the change to the zoning ordinance and require a use permit for apartments. So you'd be able to control what materials were used on the apartments with the tools that you have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair.
Mayor, thank you. Dr. Whitaker, you referring to what the council before you came on, what we turned down before?
Right.
Well, that was not market rent, and that was incentive financing and had some income limits in it, which we rejected before. Now, what he's saying about what he's doing right now is true, but if you're referring to what we rejected, I don't know, a year or 2 ago, it was not a market rate project.
Oh, okay.
Low income.
Well, it was, I think what was proposed a couple of years ago, not,
Mr. Barkley, thank you. Mr. Moody.
Yes, Mr. Barkley, earlier you mentioned Harborview and the similarity between, I guess, the proposed rezoning here and what's being done in Harborview. Can you describe a little bit about the comparison, maybe the materials will be used there, as well as I think you mentioned the grocery store and what that involves?
Right, yeah, again, the land, if you're familiar with it, that is between Harborview Boulevard and Interstate 664. In, I believe, 2007, was a master plan town center, just like this is currently zoned for. It was what was proposed and designed. Essentially, one building has been built in that complex under that design, which is the Town Bank building that you see on Harborview Boulevard when you go there. They're the only building built to those standards, and that developer's been unable to market the rest of the property under that zoning. So consequently, they sought and were granted by the City of Suffolk a rezoning of that property, downscaling it from a town center to allow apartment buildings very similar to this, which is 2- 3-story garden apartments. And I believe they're allowing up to maybe 1,600 units, I think, a pretty large number of apartments. And in addition to that, there'll be some medical office buildings and retail, which will probably be either drugstore or grocery store or both. And then that also attracts, if you get those, just like here, on some of the out parcels, you could probably see like a sit-down restaurant. One of the chain, Olive Garden or what,
Right.
I'm not just saying them particularly, but, any number of restaurants along those lines are what we'd be looking for perhaps along Victory.
I don't know if anyone remembers it on council, but before Kroger was built, the city had a master developer called Sembler, and what you described, what this was going to be before the economy tanked, was going to be exactly that. That was going to be multi-story, apartments, and it was going to be retail on the bottom. And the developer, when the economy tanked, he came back to us and said he can't do it because it won't move, and consequently pulled out. We had to let the property sit vacant for a while until we were fortunate to get what's there nowadays. Also, Admiral's Landing, who most of my colleagues are familiar with, in fact, one of them I think lives there, when it was built, and you probably remember this being from Portsmouth, that was designed as a mixed use. It was going to be the residential that's there nowadays, and then underneath along the shops, along the seawall, there were going to be retail. But the economy changed that. So it's not unusual for projects to change according to the economy. And you know, you can resist it. You can let property sit vacant and with the hopes that it'll turn around. But at the end of the day, I believe you have to face economic reality on what's going to move, what's going to sell, and what's going to bring tax revenue to the city to offset the high taxes that we pay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, and just if I could follow up.
There
on-
wasn't a question in that, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Meeks?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to know if they had any community involvement with Cavalier Manor and Highland Biltmore, because they were both promised the product, and I want to see if it was any community.
Can anybody speak to the community engagement? Did you talk to Howland Bitmore, Cavalier Manor, Civic Leagues? Have they seen
Weighed
this?
in, or
Right.
because we're scaling down material, and
Right.
and that's one piece, but giving the developer a lot of leeway as far as a grocery store and a couple of other things. The apartments, we need the dents.
Are you speaking for the developer?
Oh.
No, sir, Mallory Butler with Economic Development. The question was about community engagement and involvement, and the developers, the Economic Development Department, and several members of the business of the neighborhood community, to include representatives of 2 or 3 of the communities, met, we did this back when Chuck Rigney was still our director, so it's been several months, if not 9 months or so. And we had a very productive meeting and went through the entire application process and reviewed the product with them then, and they were very favorable.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Wood?
Yes, maybe you can answer my question. What was that a below market rate price on the sale of that property from EDA?
I do not have those figures with me. The EDA bought that property in the fall of 1997. They bought everything between Greenwood, McLean, Victory, and the interstate. It was all cleared vacant land at the time. But I do not know what the price point was. It was raw land at the time. It needed substantial improvements. None of the infrastructure in the property could maintain development. It was all substandard, all new water, sewer, roads, lighting, curb gutter had to be put in, which is what the master developer has done over the course of time.
So is this the third iteration or the second, as far as this project is concerned? Did it go market, then low, then it's back to market rate again as far as rent?
With respect to the multifamily development,
Right.
there was a proposal from the developer a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, to do a tax credit development that would have some component to it, some incentivized financing, and council did not agree with that, and that has gone away, and this is now market rate.
Well, was that tax credit deal, was that the original
No, sir.
structure? The original structure was market.
Yes, sir.
So this is the third iteration, market, tax credit, and now back to market,
Correct.
but with a more scaled-down product.
I believe the bulk of the design guidelines are still in keeping with the originals. There have been, as has been noted, some changes with some of the vinyl and hardy plank.
My concern is that when we allow developers to come into the city and get great incentives by purchasing below market rate, and then we allow them to come back in with products that aren't what were originally proffered. And so they come out they come out well ahead of where they had originally planned. I just have a
They were
an issue with
required to put all of the infrastructure in place that is there today at their cost. That was all absorbed by then. So, I believe it's something close to $4 million of infrastructure they were required to put in that's in the dirt and there today.
Right, well, that's why I was asking about the price of the land and the rents that are being proffered.
I don't believe the rents are being proffered. I think they're.
Well, you mentioned it was market, low, and now back to market.
They brought a proposal to council for consideration that had a tax credit incentive to it, which council did not approve, and they are proposing multifamily development that is all market rate, driven by the market. The rents will be driven by the market.
Mr. Meeks.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask you one quick question, maybe, what is the purpose of having the whole piece rezoned versus just the apartment piece?
I'll touch on that, but I will have to defer to planning. It is an entire development that is conceptualized as an entire community that's cohesive. That entire geography I just mentioned, from Greenwood to the interstate, from McLean to Victory, and I think the planners can probably address it better than I can, but it makes more sense to collectively look at all of the development, not just a single parcel by parcel development.
Good evening, Mayor. Dr. Whitaker, answer the question here. Approximately 2 years ago, when I came back to the city and had our initial meetings with the developers, we actually posed that question to the developers themselves, identifying it'd be easier to just address the residential piece by itself than take on dealing with the entire master plan for the development. And what we were told at the time was that the residential developer did not want to get too far down the road in terms of his commitment without knowing what was going to go on around him. And so the developer wanted to see what the ultimate master plan was going to be before they would commit to be the resident developer. And that's what we were at least were told at that time.
Thank you. Mr. Moody.
Yes, actually, I had a question for Ms. Butler, if she
Mallory.
wouldn't mind coming back up. Get a workout here tonight.
Yes, sir.
Unless I heard my colleague wrong, you mentioned that, we give the developer incentives. I don't think there were any
No, sir.
incentives. In fact, the developer did the infrastructure. Is that
Correct.
So I just want to clear up that point. There were no incentives, no city money.
The property is within the state enterprise zone, so at a certain point in time, the developer would be eligible for the state grants and any applicable local
Yeah, but-
incentives, just like any other site in the enterprise
But
zone.
we didn't reach
But
in
no,
our
sir.
city pocketbook and
We
pull out any
required
money.
them to spend money.
Yeah, which is very unique in this city. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Dr. Whitaker.
Let me just make sure, I didn't define incentives as being city funds. An incentive could be that you sold it at a significantly discounted price. So I just want to make that clear. I never defined it as city funds.
That's inferred. That's not based on fact.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I just want, Mr. Meeks' point about the property about the 6 acres versus the 56. And that here is where the problem lies for me. Because once we rezone this, I have no problem with the apartments, the market apartments. But once we rezone this entire 56 acres, we have no control on what goes over in the other 56 acres. So, and the plan that was presented does not tell us what that would be. And some of what they do say will be is not what we desire. I learned from the Planning Commission meeting that there are approximately 12 grocery stores within 2.5 miles of this project. Secondly, so you'd have a grocery store in walking distance of Farm Fresh. And we saw what happened to Farm Fresh just across the city line in Churchland when the Kroger was when one of them came down the street that could lower the prices long as they run them out of business and then take them back up. I would hate to see that happen to Victory Crossing and wonder what would happen to that development once that store disappears. Right. So I cannot in good conscience blindly rezone 56 acres to know what's going to go on 6 and not the other 50, and not be comfortable with what's going on the other 50.
Okay, sure. Let me ask, before we open it up, let me ask, John, if you come back up, maybe you can answer this, or maybe Bob can do it there. If we reject this tonight, where do we stand with this project, the obligation of the developers, and where we're looking at with our timeline and expectations that we have on these folks? Is that a Bob question?
That's for
Ma-
Mr. Baldwin.
Okay, Bob.
Yes, Mayor. I think there's two parts to that question. Where that leaves you, if the rezoning is denied tonight, the existing zoning remains in place. I think that's something people would be aware of, that this doesn't become unzoned or non-zoned property. The existing zoning with all the proffers, the design guidelines remains in place. The rest of your second part of your question about what happens to the rest of the property, that's an Economic Development Authority question, because that, the timeline, as we were at the original, I believe it was 250,000 square feet that were supposed to be constructed by this time, obviously have not been done, so that timeline has not been met. But the rest of that question is an Economic Development Authority question.
Okay, thank you. And speaking of timelines, how many times have we missed our deadline now on this project? Is this our second time, or third, or fourth? Is at least 3 times that we've gone, okay, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z 1505. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak, you may come forward. Please give your name and address, and you will have up to 3 minutes to speak on item Z 1505. And as Mr. Godaldik-Yatrovsky comes forward, anyone who decides to speak, if you are a registered non-agenda speaker, if you speak at this time, you will relinquish your non-agenda speaker time.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Mark Godaldik-Yatrovsky, P.O. Box 50141, Portsmouth 23703. Those of you who reviewed the packet of information will note that I spoke on this at the Planning Commission hearing. My views have not changed since that point in time. When developers come to the city with deals to make, they promise us the moon and some of the stars. And then as time passes, things either progress and the deals get modified, watered down, or sometimes abandoned completely. We have parcels of property in the downtown area that illustrate this point. There's supposed to be a new hotel at that end of the waterfront that never got built. We were supposed to have another hotel over by the interstate that never got built. And so it goes. And so the deck seems to be stacked in favor of the developer. And I don't appreciate that. As a citizen, as somebody who relies on a healthy tax base to hold my tax rate at a reasonable level, it's through all of us contributing what we have to offer that keeps this place livable. So when a developer who has had a property for a very long time cites economic conditions of several years back, and according to those who track such things, the recession has been over for several years. And now they're coming at this late date as the clock is ticking and say, well, we need to do this because the market conditions have changed. I feel betrayed. I feel cheated. And I feel that we are not getting the potential value out of property that will not be redeveloped again in my lifetime, and probably in most of yours. So I do not want to see us in a race to the bottom. Put up, shut up, or get out of the way and let somebody else do it. I ask that you deny the application.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Carolyn Pope. I am a resident at 2962 Greenwood Drive, so I live in that community. I'm not exactly sure if the whole plan needs to be trashed, but I do believe that some of it needs to really be looked at seriously. When I look at the amount that I pay in POA fees, and I'm sure that it didn't stop me from moving there, but I'm sure it's stopping others from thinking about coming into that community. So this is something that we do need to look at, because it's not an incentive for people to come and live there. I don't know if you can table it for tonight and revisit it, but I don't think it's something that needs to just be eliminated and not looked at the plan to change what they're proposing.
Thank you very much. You're in the Newport area, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
And a new resident there.
And a new resident, and welcome. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Members of council seeing
Kentrail Devon, I reside in Newport. And as a lifelong member there, one of the first residents to come to Newport, we purchased there because we knew the surrounding areas would be developed. So like my neighbor has said, and we have another neighbor in the audience, we are hoping that something can be done. Not just that, but we need tax bases. We need more profits coming to our city. So hopefully we don't just shut down something that can help the surrounding area and possibly bring more people to that region of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And just for the residents there, this will not be a complete shutdown. Probably something in the neighborhood of a partial looking at. There's some things that we're very concerned about, the lack of productivity and the effort and the race to running this clock out and coming in at the last minute with experts and all these people that tells us all these reasons why we need to extend the time for another 12 years. We're extremely concerned about that. And we're also concerned about your neighborhood and your property is the reason why we're doing what we're doing, because you came in your neighborhood and purchased on a certain premise, okay? And we want to make sure that you're pleased with your purchase and your investment, and we're not going to let anybody come in and damage that, okay? Thank you. Yes.
members of council seeing no additional persons coming forward, this public hearing is closed.
Move for denial.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for denial.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to explain to the public that I am going to vote against the denial. In other words, I am in favor of the rezoning. And Mr. Godolgi-Yatrovsky, I thought, put it very well when he said he was disappointed, or he felt like he'd been betrayed. But the fact of the matter is, we have a development organization who did come into a piece of property and hasn't asked the city for a dime. They have invested nearly $5 million in sewers and streets and drainage and everything to make that property attractive. Times have changed. What we as individuals want in a neighborhood and in an urban environment have changed. Just like their example in Harborview, I too had some heartburn about grocery stores until I thought about Harborview and I thought about 21st Street and lots of areas that have multiple choices of grocery stores. And I got to thinking, why is it the people of Ghent can have, 4 or 5 grocery stores, but the people, my friends who live in Newport, can't have but 2? you know, we want to throw around the disparity word. Well, why can't Portsmouth have a little bit of everything, just like Norfolk does, or Harborview does? So I'm going to vote to support this. It's an ongoing project. It's a step in the right direction. I understand that, you know, the guy who's building the apartments doesn't want to do that until he knows there's a commitment from the dry cleaner and the grocer, and it's a chicken or egg. Well, we got to start somewhere. And we've got people who are committed to making an investment now, and so I'm going to vote to support it.
Okay, thank you. And it's just a question, since the Vice Mayor brought up that point, is there any idea how much money the city has not received over the last 12, 14, however long this thing's been drawn out? Absolutely no revenue. Nothing. Sitting idle, a development. We know they have an investment. The city of Portsmouth has a great investment in that area as well. And I think the infrastructure piece, including the TCC, I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of about $30 million that the city has put in that whole region there. So we've got a huge dog in that hunt as well. And so to couch that as it's all just a developer, my concern is, again, the length of time, the longevity, the inactivity, and again, I think one of the speakers talked, we've gone in and out of a couple of economic cycles, and these folks have done absolutely nothing but come in and ask for more time, another rezoning, and things of that nature. And frankly, I'm sick and tired of it. Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sick and tired of inactivity, too. When I travel around Portsmouth, I see the most prime real estate piece in the region, known to most of us as the former Holiday Inn site, sitting vacant. It's been sitting vacant for years and years and years. And tonight, there's no offer on the table to develop that property. I can ride down George Washington Highway. There was a project that was going to be 200 homes, and all I see is weeds. I can look at the corner of Greenwood and Victory Boulevard, where most of us remember Earl's Supermarket. It's been sitting vacant for, use your words, way too long, Mayor. And tonight, we have a project that can generate almost $900,000 in tax revenue. We have a plan. And to say that we don't need any more grocery stores, I invite anybody to drive down Victory Boulevard and apply the same thing to convenience stores. In fact, on one end of Greenwood, we have a convenience store, and on the other end of Greenwood, we've got a convenience store. And apply the same axiom to drugstores. You would think everybody in this city is taking a dozen pills a day. So I think the marketplace should determine what's enough. The developer, and maybe this is the problem, this is actually a developer that's invested $5 million in infrastructure. And maybe that's kind of fogged our minds that we're not used to taking the check, we're used to giving the check. To create a villain out of a developer that's already invested $5 million and who has a letter of support from TCC, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to support this, or I'm going to vote against denial and join the Vice Mayor in doing so. And we need to get on board and generate some tax revenue, because I guarantee you come March, we're going to be making a case that, boy, we got to raise your taxes because we're not generating enough tax revenue. Well, we have an opportunity here tonight to do exactly that. So I'm voting against denial.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
To Mr. Moody's point, if we had done what we're doing now, all those convenience stores wouldn't be there. If we had a choice, they all wouldn't be there. But because those properties was zoned where they are, developers could come in and build them, and we had absolutely no say-so. I can guarantee you, if we had, Councilman Edmonds wouldn't let any of those 7-Elevens been popped up anywhere near Cavalier Manor. But he knew we had any say-so. But with this property, we have some say-so. And whatever we do, wherever we do it in Portsmouth, we can count on it being there for the next 50 years. So we have to make the best decision and the right decision because we only get one shot at it in our lifetime. And I'm not ready to settle yet. If it's sat there for 12 years, I'm willing to let it sit for another couple of years to get the right thing there. You know, if I lived in Cavalier Manor and had to go to the doctor, I had to go all the way to Maryview or to another city. You know, there are some things that's needed in that area, but nobody's bring them to us. Bring us urgent care. Bring us some medical facility so the people who live in those neighborhoods will have somewhere to go to get some treatment and not have to, if I'm having a heart attack, worry if I can make it to Maryview or not. You know, bring us somewhere where we can buy a suit or a lady can buy a gown. Bring us something that's desirable. If not, if it takes a couple more years to get those things, I am willing to wait a couple of more years to give the citizens what they really need and deserve.
Thank you. Dr. Whitaker, and then there's a motion for denial on the floor.
Right, I just want to make sure it's a motion for denial, so a yes vote is approving the denial, right.
A yes vote is to deny. And also, this is the first reading, and if we do deny, we need to decide, do we want to bring this back for the next time or not? Okay, all right. And we're not, Mr. Meeks?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mayor, on this project, I think the developer has made a huge mistake by trying to get the whole 56 acres rezoned. I think his direction or guidance from planning was not right. I'm going to go with denial based upon it's giving them too much leeway on the other 50 acres.
Thank you. Okay. All right, there's a motion to deny.
A yes is to deny, right?
A yes will be to deny, correct.
The motion is adopted 5-2.
Okay. And we do not want this item brought back before us next month. Right. All right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
All right. Item B, SNC 1502, Ebony Heights. Ordinance granting the request of Elder Mark A. Thomas Sr. on behalf of New Community Temple Church of God in Christ for a street name change of a portion of Tyreneck Road between Eric Street and Falk Street. The applicant proposes a name change from Tyreneck Road to Bishop Ted G. Thomas Way. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends low to medium density single-family development in the vicinity of the aforementioned section of Tyreneck Road. Vision principle, neighborhoods, and sense of community, electronic roll call, and I have registered speakers.
Start.
Mayor Wright, members of City Council. From the staff's perspective, I think this is a fairly straightforward item. It's really one more of choice than anything else. What is proposed is essentially to rename a single block to Bishop Ted G. Thomas Way. It is the very north end of Tyreneck Road. Beyond this particular segment of road is a small city park. So it's really at the very end of the road. These are the individual parcels that essentially adjoin the street. Another important thing to keep in mind is that the only property owner that is affected by this request is the New Community Temple itself. There are no private individuals that will have to change their address and go through all of that. There is a single-family residence on Fox that is owned by the church, but again, not affected by this particular request. The Planning Commission considered this item at their October meeting and have recommended denial of the request. One of the things that they did discuss was dropping the title of bishop to make it a non-secular I'm not sure that's right. To make it a neutral name for a street name, they did recommend denial by a vote of 4-2. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions.
And the reason for denial was because of Bishop?
No, they agreed to remove, they felt that the bishop should be removed. They still voted to deny the request to change the street at all.
Okay, and the reason for denial was?
They did not believe that the street name should be changed.
Okay, that was it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Questions?
Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, sir. You did say there was no impact from the area there that the request is being made. There's no impact on citizens or anyone else as far as address changes or any of that?
Correct. The only property affected in terms of addresses
Is the
and
church.
changing addresses is the church itself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Our first speaker is Ms. Arsenia Clark.
My name is Arsenia Clark. I am a business owner and resident in the city of Suffolk, Virginia. Many of the neighbors present at the past City Planning Commission meeting seem to have a common thread as to their reason for not wanting the street name change. And that thread was the fact that they felt uninvolved and uninformed about the activities and the sessions and things that we felt that we do in the community that they say they have no idea of what's going on. And that can be easily fixed. We can continue putting out the flyers, which we're already doing, and we can also start to utilize our marquee in order to keep them informed, because we do not want to go through the effort and the finances of doing these projects that benefit them, and then they themselves say they are uninformed about it.
No.
But again, that's easily fixed. Since the last meeting, I've scanned the internet and I've taken a mental note of street names that currently exist. And I feel that some changes when establishing a criteria could easily be taken into consideration. First of all, street names are often after trees, flowers, war heroes, civic workers, and famous battles, all of which represent strength, beauty, accomplishment, positive purpose, and community service. Too often, individuals are honored for their accomplishments after death, without the benefit of knowing and realizing how much others have truly appreciated their contribution. So it is our hope that that not be the case on today. Naming a street after an individual not only benefits the one that's living, but it also benefits that community and that city to help understand that there is something great that's happening within that community or within that city. Bishop Ted Thomas Sr. is a strong leader. He's community-oriented, and he leads with integrity and compassion. Bishop Thomas has served as pastor of New Community Temple, 3615 Tyreneck Road, for over 40 years. And in that time, the church there in the Ebony Heights community has done a variety of community projects. I feel it'd be unfair for us to take on the mindset that I heard in the previous meeting, that if we do it in this instance for this pastor, that everyone else will come up and want us to do it for their pastor. My thought process behind that is, so what? If you have a pastor in your community that is leading his congregation to do positive projects and programs that benefit that community, not only the community, but the city, brings in revenue from time to time to the city, and also they have the gumption enough to come in, fill out the application, pay the fee, why not? I said the more the merrier. We have a lot of street names behind war heroes. We have a lot of street names behind civic leaders. No one counts the little tit-tats about, oops, we have one too many, so we can't do it for them. So in this case, I say the more the merrier. If they're doing great things, let's honor them in that way.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Mr. Meeks?
Miss, I didn't
Ms.
catch
Clark.
your name.
Mr. Meeks has a question for you.
You said you're a resident of Suffolk?
I am a resident of Suffolk, but I attend New Community Temple.
Okay.
And I think you'll find that most people in a community don't attend the community church.
Yeah, I was just asked.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Belinda Johnson.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Belinda Johnson. I am deaf, and I've joined this temple and this church because I have the same beliefs, and I'm deaf, and the bishop is wonderful. He's a very good person. He supports me being deaf. He has a lot of love. He's very compassionate. He welcomed me to the church. It doesn't matter that I'm deaf. He's made sure that I have communication, and we have 4 interpreters, and I think we should honor him and put his name on that sign. And it's right near the parking for the church. It does not affect anybody else, and it just honors him. He's wonderful. I would love to invite each and every one of you to come one day and see that church and to be able to experience it and to see what a wonderful, wonderful pastor or bishop he is. So thank you very much. And he's just a really good man, truly is, and I'm so grateful for him, and that's why we want to have that name changed.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas Fawkes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Pick your mic up, Mr. Falk.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. At the Planning Commission, the son said he wanted to give the street name change as a gift to his father. Okay, everybody wants to give a gift to their father once they get elderly. Why does he have to give part of my community to his father? Church member just got up here and said that she enjoys going to the church. They do a lot of things for the church members, not to put anybody down. Isn't that what a church is supposed to do? You got 2 older churches in that community. You got Pentecostal Holiness Church and Grove Baptist, which like to be called Grove now. To me, it's still Grove Baptist. I grew up in that neighborhood, so they can call it what they want to. It's still Grove Baptist. Nobody from those 2 churches are in here asking for a name change to anything. Reverend Murner bought some property, and he named something that that church owns. He named it Reverend Murner's Christian Academy. Got no problem with that. He owns that. That church owns that. The lady just up here spoke, said that most of the members of that church are not members of that community. I was born and raised there. How come somebody outside my community can come in my community and rename something? And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Fawkes.
Miss Maria Fawkes.
Hi, my name is Marie Fultz. I live at 5912 Dunkirk Street. I was born and raised there also. That was my brother just left off from up here. He brought up the son wanted to give it to him as a gift. Why should I have to be associated with a personal gift? To me, that would be personal. You're taking something that's private, city-owned, citywide, you're making it personal. So why would we take a city street and make it a personal gift? And I don't know how to actually put this question in the right order, or not to be rude or disrespectful. One of his church members came to my house, stood on my front porch, and said that the community was wasting its time because this is already a done deal. So are we wasting our time by coming down here and voicing our opinion that we don't approve of this? I can tell you the name of the person, there's no problem. Because they say I'm nosy, they say I'm mean. And I am nosy, and I can be mean. But when you're doing this out of a box, that's not right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to answer your question, you're not wasting your time when you come down and speak. This council wants to hear from all of the citizens before we make decisions. So thank you for coming.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
I was just going to say what you said.
Oh, okay, she said ditto. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mark Thomas.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, the other executive staff of the city. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of my church, New Community Temple, our church, New Community Temple, Church of God in Christ. We do have some members who are present today, and I'd just like them to stand with me on today. Would you stand? Yeah. All right. You may be seated. Not only would I like for them to stand, I'd also like for some members who are part of the community. I think it's important that you note we do serve Ebony Heights, but we also serve surrounding communities. And we do have some members from Ebony Heights that are here today. I want Mr. Leslie Thomas, would he stand? He is on Campbell Street. Mr. Greg Taylor, would you stand? He's also on Campbell Street. Mrs. Sylvia Brown, would you stand? She is a resident of Eric Street. Ms. Priscilla Clemens, would you stand? She is a resident of Eric Street as well. I thought I saw Sister Bell. Is Sister Bell here? All right, I didn't see her. But anyway, she's a resident of Tire Neck Road. And so we wanted you to know that not only we service Ebony Heights community, but we service whoever would like to come and be a part of the fellowship at New Community Temple. I want to say it's an honor to be here. I want to first of all thank you for your service in helping to keep our city move forward. And just as some of the other residents have come and said about their birthplace being in Ebony Heights community, New Community Temple has been in Ebony Heights for over 61 years. And they have made a significant contribution to the welfare of that community. And so we stand as a body today to submit, as you know, for a street name change request to be applied to the portion of Tire Neck Road between Eric and Falks Street. We realize and understand when we first submitted this request, we really desired to submit it from Dunkirk to Falks. However, we talked to persons in the community, and after having conversation with persons in the community, we amended our request to come down to Eric and Falks because particularly it would not cause any change to billing address or postal address or any of that type of information would affect the community by just placing it from Eric to Falk Street. All of the properties that you see along that section are owned by New Community Temple or either Bishop Ted Thomas Sr. personally. And Bishop Thomas is a man that provides for the community. First of all, those two properties that are on Falks and that are on.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Okay.
Well done. Yes, sir.
Ms. Donna Sy.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. I oppose the request to change the name of the bite-sized portion of Tire Neck Road from Eric to Hawk Street in the Ebony Heights section of Churchland. Elder Mark Thomas wants to give his father the road name changed to Bishop Ted G. Thomas Way as an 80th birthday present. Principles of Liberty 22. A free people should be governed by law and not by the whims of men. To be governed by the whims of men is to be subject to the ever-changing opinions of those in power. This is ruler's law at its worst. In such a society, nothing is dependable. No rights are secure. Things established in the present are in a constant state of movement. Nothing becomes fixed and predictable for the future. John Locke pointed out that unless a society can provide a person with a code of fixed and enforceable laws, he might as well have stayed in the jungle. He said, men give up all their natural power to the society they enter into, and the community puts the legislative power into the elected hands they think are fit and trustworthy, and that the people need to be governed by declared laws. If not, the people's peace, quiet, and property will have the same uncertainty as living in a jungle. Are we, the people, going to continue living in uncertainty in Portsmouth because of the whims of the elected and some citizens, or are we going to live by laws that protect we the people from uncertainty? In 1991, at the age of 56, Pastor Thomas became the interim pastor of St. Stephen's Church in Suffolk. 9 years later, in 2000, St. Stephen's congregation to almost 150 members. After the renovation of the church edifice in 2001, St. Stephen's was rededicated as Church of God in Christ Church in the first jurisdiction of Virginia. At the age of 73 in 2008, Pastor Thomas became the owner of the new community temple, Church of God in Christ, at 3615 Tire Neck Road. The new community temple church sits on lots 28 through 34. Its value is almost $4.7 million. When I learned about the desire to change the name of a portion of Tire Neck Road, I wrote Elder Thomas and asked him to give me evidence of the work that he says his father has done. So far, he has not responded to my request. Bishop Thomas has his name on the emblem in his church and is displayed prominently on his website. I oppose the name change of a bite-sized portion of Tire Neck Road from Eric to Hawk Street. I do not give my consent for this added expense on we the people. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Ms. Rosetta Mann.
Good evening, everybody, especially Mayor Wright. I'm Rosetta Mann. I live at 5906 Eric Street. My house is directly across the street from the church and adjacent to the parking lot. I want you all to deny we're giving them a name change for a couple of reasons. One of the first ones is, if he wants to change the name so people know him or honor him, change your parking lot name. I believe at Grove Baptist, they got a Marino Way Road, but it's on their driveway going into their church parking lot. The second thing, they say they've done stuff for the community. The years I've been here, I haven't seen anything they've done. They said that they opened their place for the homeless. I checked with the Oasis and the Portsmouth Police Department, who couldn't provide any proof that they were on the list. So if y'all are on the list like Grove Baptist is and Churchland Baptist helping the homeless, let me know so I can help get the word out. The other thing, recently with the things that we don't want y'all to change your name because of y'all involvement with the community. Recently, y'all had a birthday party for Bishop Thomas. He turned 80. That was a perfect time for y'all to send out an invitation to the immediately surrounding neighbors, especially the streets right around you, but you didn't. I understand you invited Mayor Wright, which was good, but y'all didn't invite the neighborhood. And finally, we got a church that's not paying anything to Portsmouth. Churches are exempt from my research from paying taxes. So one, they're not paying any taxes to our city, and their pastor lives in Suffolk, so he's not paying any real estate taxes to us. Let's bring some revenue into Portsmouth so it can reduce our taxes. No to a name change. Let's keep the name Tire Neck Road the way it is. And if you want something under your dad's name, go buy you some acres somewhere and change the acres that your property is on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mann. Would you help her? Mr. Fox, thank you. Dr. Whitaker? Would you
Yes,
like Ms. Mann?
yes.
Would you like her?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was. Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to express my support for the name change. Bishop Thomas has done outstanding work as a servant leader in the community, not only in the Ebony Heights community, but also across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I'm not going to sit idly and let someone make a mockery of the great work that I know he has done. And so I commend his son for standing by his father and supporting him and giving him his flowers while he can smell them. And so I'm in full support because I know of the work that that church has done in that community, and I know that Bishop Thomas is a respected leader.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item SNC 1502. At this time, if there is anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this specific public hearing, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 3 minutes to speak on item SNC 1502.
Honorable Mayor Wright, Vice Mayor Simmons, City Manager Dr. Patton, City Attorney Nakamite, Mr. Osby, I'm sorry, and all others assembled. My name is Joseph R. Wright, 1451 Welcome Road in the Cavalier Manor section of Portsmouth, Virginia. Contrary from what the council heard a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I were not locked up in a room in this church. We were free to go anywhere we wanted to in that church. They just didn't want Bishop to see us, you know. I've been knowing Bishop Ted Thomas for over 55 years. We used to work together. He was a good man then. He's a better man now. And I don't see any reason why we can't take that one block that they're asking for and name it after Bishop Ted Thomas Sr. And there will be no confusion as far as the mail service is concerned, because both other ends of Tarnake will be still Tarnake. And the mailman, when he comes out there, he'll know who to deliver. The GPS people won't get confused because everything on that block is owned by that church. And I say, let's vote to pass that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. And to clean up his comment, I spoke last meeting when Mr. Wright was not here. I think he was under the weather, and I used the word he was locked up. He was the special guest of the bishop and spoke very highly and spoke well for the community. Thank you, sir. Dr. Edmonds.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to chime in just to say that Bishop Thomas has been a stellar preacher and missionary, educator, and has had a lot of influence in a lot of things, not only in our city, but in Suffolk and other cities as well. And for the small parcel that they were talking about putting the name to, the only thing that's located there is the church. And I think a man of his great character does warrant such a thing if it's not impinging on somebody else in that neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Yatrovsky.
Mark Adolda Yatrovsky, P.O. Box 50141, Portsmouth 23703. I spoke against this at the Planning Commission and will speak against it again. I have no animosity toward Bishop Thomas. I have no animosity toward any member of the clergy other than some past members of my church. But that's a different story. I believe that this sort of honorary naming should proceed in a different fashion. There has been some discussion, some preliminary discussion at the Planning Department about honorary street naming, wherein you have a dual nomenclature system. And I believe that's the way we should go with this kind of request. So in essence, the street name remains as it was. But there is a second sign, or there's signage above the sign, and it is of a certain duration. It has a sunset date. It has the potential for renewal. So you achieve your purpose of naming particular place in somebody's honor without disrupting what has been in place over time. This is what I would have preferred for the funeral home street name change that came here earlier. We don't have anything on the books now. We should put something on the books. You know, if you're trying to find your way around an unfamiliar city and you didn't lay out extra money for that GPS update, you may find yourself headed in some strange direction when, and in my GPS, I call her Karen, when Karen, in her beautiful Australian accented voice, tells me, "Take a right, mate," and lands me out in the middle of nowhere. She tried to take me on a bicycle path once upon a time. Let us not confuse the cartographers. Let's keep our direction straight. Let's honor people as the requests come to us and maintain dual tracks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, very much. And let Karen know that all roads lead to Portsmouth. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought long and hard about this. I'm actually made the lone dissenting vote after voting to change the Fisher name, and then when it came back around again, I voted to change it back because of the confusion and because I thought we needed to have an honorary way of naming streets. And as I sit here tonight, and I read the 51-page report from the Planning Commission of the 38 speakers who spoke on this topic, I too have been to your church on 2 occasions and know the Thomas family, and there's no doubt that there has been great work done in the church and by the family. That's not my issue. But I sit here thinking, would we want a Bishop Edmonds way, who's done great work? But unfortunately, his church sits around very busy streets. Or a Bishop Whitaker way in honor of Dr. Whitaker's father. Again, the church sits on very busy streets. So if we want to honor good people who do good works in this fashion, I think it ought to be in an honorary way. There's certainly a way to do it. I'm sure Mr. Ashby could bring something back to us or the planning department at some future session. I will make the motion to deny this request.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Madam Clerk? We have any other speak? Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, Mr. Moody?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I guess my question is to staff. I've heard the speakers in support of this say that there are no homes, no residential addresses that will be affected. Is that?
That's correct. The only address would change would be the churches.
Okay, nobody else?
That's correct.
In that neighborhood?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, the rest of the council. I came up here to make some clarifications. My name is Christopher Thomas. I am one of the associate ministers at the New Community Church. First thing I need to let you guys know is that this is not a family project. This was discussed with the church and as well as our jurisdiction's pastors and elders council. They thought it'd be great because that church is the jurisdictional headquarters of Virginia One. And so we're not just up here because it's a family thing. Next clarification I would like to make is a lot of facts you heard that was being read, I think they were misread over the internet because Bishop Thomas actually pastors the St. Stephen's Church of God in Christ as well in Virginia Beach. For over 25 years. And notice it's in Virginia Beach, not Suffolk. And we are yet still on 189 South Burnett Road in Virginia Beach. The next clarification I would like to make is simply that even some of the persons who came up here and spoke and said what Bishop Thomas was not, I do know he paid their light bill, and he did pay some of their utilities. And I'm not even going to go down that road, but I need to say this because I want to make it clear that we love everybody in the community. Don't want to harm anybody. That one block, as the gentleman said about Grove Baptist Church, I think Mr. Falk said that Mariner Way is owned by the Grove Baptist Church, and so is that block. That block is owned on both sides by the New Community Temple Church of God in Christ. And I need to make that real clear. It's owned by the New Community Temple Church, not Bishop Ted Thomas. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other speakers? All right, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. This public hearing is,
Ma'am, would you like to speak?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council Board. Good evening. It's just sad. It really is.
Can you provide your name and address, please?
My name is Miranda. I reside at 5812 Falk Street. It's sad. I'm only going to say this because it's just sad. The community is being neglected. There's a lot of elderly people in this community. That's why you don't see some of the community in this building right now. Yes, you see the members of the church because they go to the church. But if you ask them if they reside in the community, they don't. And at the same token, for changing a street name, I would think that you would have to stay in that jurisdiction somewhere up in there in order to get that. And you're also neglecting 3 other churches that's out there that started out small that has built to their churches. You got Pentecostal Holiness Church on Blaine. You have New Beginnings Christian Church on Blaine. And you have the, New Beginnings, Grove, and New Beginnings. And it's just ridiculous. It's just sickening. And for Mark to come up here and want his father's name on a street, a portion that they have purchased throughout the years of being out there, as they've seen people come and go in and out the neighborhood, is just sad. And yes, I reside in the neighborhood, been residing in the neighborhood for 40 years.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Members of council, there are no additional speakers on this item.
Move for approval.
We have a motion for denial. Is
right.
there a second?
Who motioned for denial?
The Vice Mayor motioned
Vice
for
Mayor.
denial. and it
Oh, I
was not
thought you
seconded.
stated you were going to deny.
That was her motion.
She made a
for
motion.
denial.
Oh,
So it's
Is there a
not
second?
second.
okay.
I just wanted to clear
Oh,
up that they
okay.
didn't get a second. Okay.
Move for approval.
I didn't hear the motion.
Okay, that motion fails. Is there another motion for approval?
Move for approval.
Yes. And there's a second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 5-2. Jerry, Moody, and Sims.
Oh, Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir. I'd still like consensus of the council to ask the city attorney to come back to us with some suggestions on honorary street naming.
Okay. Yeah, I actually would not be opposed to that. I don't know if it should be planning to come up with some type of guidelines or something.
Mr. Mayor,
and,
the planning department is already working on that.
Okay.
I think it's a solution looking for a problem, but they're already working on it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manager.
Yes, sir.
No, ma'am.
Just that section.
City Manager's Report 15-399, adoption of an ordinance accepting a grant in the amount of $302,787 from the Virginia Department of Fire Programs and appropriating said funds in the FY 2015-16 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services. Vision Principle, Neighborhoods, and Sense of Community, electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 15-400, adoption of an ordinance accepting a local emergency management program grant in the amount of $57,992 from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and appropriating said amount in the FY 2015-16 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Fire Rescue and Emergency Services for emergency management equipment, supplies, and training. Vision Principles, Neighborhood, and Sense of Community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 15-401, adoption of an ordinance accepting funding from the United States Department of Agriculture through the Virginia Department of Social Services in the amount of $20,000 and appropriating said amount in the FY 15-16 Social Services Fund for the purpose of funding a part-time position under the Evaluate SNAP Employment and Training Project. Vision Principles, a robust economy for working men and women, quality of life and lifelong learning community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. New business 15-402, boards and commission, Councilman Edmonds.
In lieu of where we are, I'll hold off any recommendation that I have until the next meeting.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr.
15-403, items submitted by council members.
Yes, very quickly, let me say two quick things because I know the hour is getting late. I do want to congratulate our students at Portsmouth Public School in the VEX robotics program. There was a huge announcement, I think yesterday or the day before, that they have qualified for the state championship. And so I want to applaud them for, that's right. I want to applaud them for that great work and good luck. Secondly, I want to wish all of our veterans here and throughout our country, and especially I think we have 3 or 4 up here on our council, happy Veterans Day. It is a time of the year that a lot of us and tomorrow we're going to have a ceremony at 11 o'clock at the head of High Street at the landing there, and I think there's another event that I'm attending at the Post 190 American Legion at noontime. But again, it's a time for us to reflect and thank not only the veterans that have served this country and went off to war and been away from home and all of those things, but thank those families of those veterans that sacrificed a lot of things that we all take for granted. And I, myself, who've never done any of those things, don't know what it's like to be away from home, to miss birthdays of my children and teeth falling out and all of those moments that we all reflect back on, and you're somewhere halfway across the world keeping this place safe. So I want to say happy Veterans Day and honor all of you here, and I respect each and every one of you for what you do it, and thank you for that. Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir. Just for all the citizens, even if you're working tomorrow on Veterans Day, we have for the first time a very short 45-minute remembrance program in honor of Veterans Day. You know, the 11th month, the 11th day at the 11th hour at the foot of High Street under the flag. We will have some remarks by the mayor, some remarks by U.S. Army retired Colonel Peter Youngblood, who is part of our Mayor's Military Affairs Committee, and we will have patriotic music by the Tidewater Concert Band, who was the wonderful orchestra that plays during our Memorial Day Parade. So it'll be very short, something you can bring your families to or children. We hope we'll have some veterans out there, and there'll be some chairs, and the rain's gone, so please come and join us.
Well done, thank you. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you and the Vice Mayor for what your comments about veterans, particularly your comments. I appreciate them. I got to kick my Veterans Day off early today by being a part of the pre-observance of Veterans Day at Norfolk State University put on by the Military and Veterans Affairs Department. They actually let me MC the program. And while I was there, I saw Miss Laura Armstrong was there with a host of Norcom high school students, and some of them spoke very highly about possibly joining the military. And it was a great group of them. And I see, is Laura still there? I thought so. Yeah, there she is. She's still over there. And so they got to learn something about the veteran holiday and what it means to our country. And some of them took it to heart. And at least two of the young ladies spoke about joining the Navy, which was a problem for me being an old soldier, but but they did learn a lot today.
Thank you. Well done, thank you. And by the way, you're already on Facebook, Mr. Cherry. You and the students are on Facebook thanks to Ms. Armstrong.
I didn't know that.
You're a popular guy. You're a popular guy, right? Thank you. Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there was some discussion in the community pertaining to a cultural arts district. And want to make sure if we could, if there's no objection from council, if we could direct the manager to make sure that as that discussion is coming to a point where there's going to be information presented to council, that it be an inclusive type of district. I don't put a lot of credence in what I read in media, but I just want to make sure that we're also including such places as the Portsmouth Colored Community Library, Emmanuel AME Church, and also the Truxton community. I didn't see those listed, but just want to make sure it's an inclusive effort.
All right, thank you. No, I have no objection at all for that. Be nice to get an overview of this, and probably at a later time, we can have it a work session. Would you like to speak on it now? Sure, absolutely.
Is it on?
The birthday girl, yes, ma'am. Go
Oh,
ahead.
thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, last Tuesday, I attended just a meet and greet with several of the cultural organizations, the foundation, the museums, and during that meeting, the chair and one of the members who was responsible for making the presentation conducted a PowerPoint presentation on their idea and thoughts about a cultural arts district. One of the things that they are now embarking upon, and Mrs. Hogue is working with the two representatives, they're going to go across the city to civic organizations and present their thoughts. This is a work in progress. It is not complete. It is not ready to come to council. And it was their suggestion that they wanted to engage the entire community and make sure everybody understands what their ideas and their thoughts are. So it's going to be probably into the first of the year before it is to me and then ready to bring to you all but it is going to be all-inclusive.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Also,
Yes, sir,
Mr.
Dr.
Mayor,
Whitaker.
also now that we have our attorney on staff, if there's no objection from council, could we direct the attorney to meet with the school system to go in and get the disparity study policy contract in place to present to council so that we can review it and implement it so we can go in and get the policy in place.
Okay, I thought we had already authorized myself to get with the manager and the attorney to get that in place, and we should be already working and getting that contractor on board so we can start that process.
Right.
Where are we, Madam Manager, in that?
Mayor, as I had shared, I've as directed to meet with schools, look at their proposal, what they have done. And as I indicated, you had indicated that there was a desire to have a contract drawn up. Dr. Whitaker asked or shared with me that it was the decision of council in meeting or talking with the city clerk to ask, as he directed me to do, to say whether or not that was the consensus. I did not get that response from that there was a vote or decision or consensus from council to move forward and enter into a contract.
Okay, are we ready to enter into a contract? For clarity purposes, I think this council has made it clear that we're interested in entering into the contract to create the policy which will drive what it is we're trying to achieve with this program. And I think the comparison with the schools and the schools piece had several other dimensions that this council, and I don't want to speak for you, so I want you to speak up. They're not interested in all of those other things. You were interested in developing a policy. Is that correct?
Right.
And is that what the request is?
Right,
Correct?
right,
To
and-
develop just a policy?
Right, right.
Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Go ahead.
I was going to say, why don't we let the new city attorney take a look at what the school board has and see if we need to enter into a contract, or if it's not something that between he and purchasing and the city manager can put the policy together for us and save us some money. And if he can't do it, then we contract.
Okay, I don't have a problem with having the attorney to look into that piece there, but I think there's some legal guidelines, and he'll be able to bring that back.
And he can bring that back to us. If that's the answer, then that's the
Okay,
answer.
all right, very good. I don't have an objection to that. Is no one else? Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, Mr. Ashby, you got your first assignment, sir. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, so that it doesn't get prolonged, can we have that by our next meeting?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. We should be able to get that, Mr. Ashby, in short order.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I support my colleague's suggestion because I'm not going to vote for anything until I know what the price is and what the ramifications is. And, you know, speaking of cooperation with the school board on that, we're right in the middle of open enrollment. And I thought this council had discussed maybe a year ago about trying to look at some economies of scale savings by combining the two healthcare systems. And lo and behold, they're still separate. And some of the employees on the school side versus the city side maybe be getting a better deal than the city employees as far as coverages, as far as co-pays are concerned. But my past experience with that, the larger pool that you have to go to market with, the better price that you get. So we need to, if there's consensus to do that, and I know it can't be done this year, but we've talked this thing to death, and we need to start saving the taxpayers some money, if possible, by looking at combining the two healthcare systems.
I think that conversation is already in place, but Madam Manager, please.
Mayor, Dr. Bracy and I meet every Thursday, and so it's my 71st day, so we've been meeting the many Thursdays I've been here. That is a top priority, as I have been sharing. We have 1,700 employees on our side, with about 1,600 participating in our health care plan. We have about 2,000 on the school side. Combining those, we've got almost 4,000 people. We know we can get a much better rate, so we are working. It's going to take us some time. It cannot happen overnight, but we're hoping by next budget we can have that in place.
Well done. Thank
That
you.
is something being worked.
Very good. All right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. 15-404, report on pending items, and we have none this evening.
Okay.
15-405, non-agenda speakers. Our first speaker is Sheriff Bill Watson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. First thing before we get started, I'd like to say that, yes, this is the 240th anniversary of the United States Marine Corps. And if you want to know what a real war hero looks like, Sergeant Major Toller, U.S. Marine Corps retired. Would you please stand up, sir? There's a hero. Yeah, hoorah, that's right. I was Navy myself, but what the heck, you know, nobody's perfect, right? But anyway, what I'd like to get to is when I was here a couple weeks ago, apparently my character was brought into question when I made a statement about an individual using our academy. Well, one good thing about it, we keep meticulous records, okay? So I just want to bring to light that in a 16-month period, that individual used that academy 26 times. 26, but it was said that she didn't use it. Anyway, I was also called unprofessional. Now I'm gonna tell you what unprofessional is. Unprofessional is trying to save money off the backs of the city employees. Y'all have cut our benefits on our health insurance to near nothing. As of January 1, we can't even put our spouses on our health insurance. I think the whole world needs to know what y'all have done to us, okay? And you talk about the school board, they get everything handed to them. The one thing the school board doesn't have is what's left in my wallet, and they ain't getting it. Now, this is getting ridiculous. You know, when you come to work here and you're promised everything in the world, this is what you get, blah, 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 blah. Then you serve 20 years, and all you say, you know what? You're really not going to do that for you anymore. Well, as far as I'm concerned, a contract is a contract. A promise is a promise. That just tells me that the city of Portsmouth does not keep its word. Okay? I understand we lost Fred Brusso. He's retiring now. How many more city leaders are going to retire and leave and go to other places? Y'all are ruining this city. And I'm going to tell you something right now. You say we have a $20 million shortfall? No, we don't. Y'all have a $20 million shortfall. It falls right on your shoulders. Y'all the ones that voted on all this. All together, you can't blame Elizabeth, Bill, or Danny because y'all voted the mayor on every item. It's the other four, okay? It falls directly on your shoulders. Mayor, you were leading the charge. You're totally at fault. We're going to hold you to it next November. Have a good night.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cherry.
You know what, Mayor, I decided not to stoop to,
Right.
I decided not to stoop to that level. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, Sheriff, the issue on the insurance and the spouses, are you referring to the Affordable Care Act?
I'm affording to the fact that y'all are screwing the employees.
No.
I can remember when we used to have 3 or 4 different insurance companies. I'm answering it to you
No,
right now.
I was asking
You talking
where you
about
were.
Obamacare?
Right, the
That's what
Affordable
they
Care
have to
Act.
go on.
Right, well, the Obamacare, Affordable Care Act is already enacted.
Right,
And
but we used to be able to insure our spouses.
Right, are you familiar with the Affordable Care Act and how it relates
And
to?
it doesn't give the
hold on.
benefits that we give with our insurance. I'm not going to debate this with y'all.
No. I just don't want misinformation going out about spouses, and let the manager can speak to that to provide clarity.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, this is the open enrollment period for health insurance for the City of Portsmouth employees. The open enrollment period is from November 2nd to the 13th. During the open enrollment period, employees are able to look at the insurance package and make the decisions as it relates to which they will choose. The Affordable Care Acts give all employers the responsibility to cover health insurance for employees and their children. That's the Affordable Care Act. This year, which this act came in place in between 2012 and 2013, we did not take that option. But that option is something that was a part of the act that we could have taken as soon as the act was enacted. With us taking that act now, no one is left off of any insurance. Give you an example. The law provides for if, in fact, you're employed with the City of Portsmouth and your spouse is employed someone else, and they have an insurance. If the insurance is higher than Portsmouth, your spouse stays with us. If your spouse has a health condition, which is a predated that it was on this insurance, they stay with us. If your spouse works somewhere where there is no insurance, they stay with us. If they're part-time, they stay with us. It gives about 8 areas of which covers where no one is left out as it pertains to the Affordable Care Act and the insurance of the City of Portsmouth. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Mr. Randy Bailey.
Well, that's another tough act to follow. To
tomorrow is Veterans Day, and tomorrow is also the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. There are many veterans from Vietnam, and most of us have health issues. And at this current time, I provided Moody and Edmonds with a thing that I found from the Ronald Reagan Library. We're dying at a rate of 390 a month. We're dying faster than World War II and Korea veterans. We're becoming extinct. And that is something that really isn't right, but it's the fact that we have to deal with, that in probably 6 to 7 years, there won't be any of us around. So history will suffer because we won't be here to help tell it, because the school systems, they don't teach history anymore. They teach tests and standards. And so something that I wanted to relate to you that came out of that report was there were 8 nurses killed in Vietnam. These were women, the United States Army. One of them was killed in action. One was killed in action. Reason being, during Tet in 1968, her facility was overrun by VC. This first lieutenant with no weapons training took up an M16, and she defended her 30 patients with her life. She was awarded a Silver Star. And these are the types of things that need to be told that we're not going to be here to tell. And I remember that incident because Dick Marchenko and a couple other SEALs, they were getting 2 Navy nurses on the other side of town. Myself and my boat crew, we were in the river trying to protect them. And I witnessed all of this. And these are the things that are going to be forgotten. Now, if you want to rename streets, let's start down the shipyard, the end of Effingham, and go all the way to the Naval Hospital. And I suggest that we name it Sergeant Major Clyde Toller Boulevard. And we honor a man who honors this city, that he gives his civic time and he still serves as he did in the Marine Corps. Instead of insulting him and belittling him, you should recognize the real man that he is. He's a hero. He's a Marine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Billy.
Ms. Ursula Murphy.
Good evening. My name is Ursula Murphy, and I live here in the city of Portsmouth. I also work here in the city of Portsmouth and have for a very, very long time. As did this a couple of weeks ago. I love Portsmouth. One of the things that really does my heart good is when it involves our kids. And for those of you that missed the Autumn Sings presentation at IC Norcom High School on October the 29th, you really missed a heck of a show. Those kids were phenomenal. And, as far as, I think Dr. Whitaker brought up about the Arts District, the paper kind of got it a little wrong. We have been working towards that, and to not mention the changing on Court Street, there is a 2-story face of Commodore Barron on Court Street, and we want Court Street to be the gateway to the arts in Portsmouth. Been saying that for 2 years, and we're working hard to make that happen. Lastly, we need to bring the parade back to Portsmouth. I understand we participate in the Grand Illumination Parade in Norfolk, but let's bring it back over here and have it. I know we can't do it this year, but maybe we can have it for next year. Do something for us again. Bring it back. Thanks.
Thank you. And Ms. Murphy, just to let you know, I don't think I mentioned it at our last council meeting, the Autumn Sings of the students, but we had the oath of office ceremony for our new city attorney, and I mentioned that because we had several folks there, and I also did it in one of my other engagements. But thank you for bringing that up. Those kids did a wonderful job. Okay, Dr. Patton?
Mayor, I wanted to just share with you that the first week that I was here, which was week of September 1st, I not only had some of our townspeople, but I had students to say to me, Dr. Patton, would you work to try to see in 2016 if we could have our own Christmas parade? It doesn't have to be big, but they talked about how when they were in elementary school, now they're in high school because it's been that long, that the schools would march in the parade, and it was just a joyous time. So that is something that I already have our team beginning to work on, because we're going to have a Christmas parade in 2016.
All right, very good. Mr. Moody?
Thanks,
You
Dr.
want to be a
Patton.
grand marshal?
No.
Oh, okay, good, all right.
But I have marched in Portsmouth Christmas Parade when I was a few years younger. They were a lot of fun. Actually, hearing the positive comments from Ursula, she usually has something positive to share, reminded me that we need to recognize Portsmouth's top cop, Jennifer Smith. Mayor, you were there.
Right.
Vice Mayor was there, myself. But she was honored with the Top Cop of Portsmouth Award, which is very prestigious.
Don't forget Richard Honeycutt, the Lifetime
And
Achievement. Yeah.
41 years.
41 years.
Officer Richard Honeycutt has served this city in the capacity as our auxiliary police officer, and his earnings through all of those 41 years as an auxiliary police officer is probably $41. I think by law they have to pay him $1 a year. So let's give Richard a nice round of applause.
Well done, Mr. Moody. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mr. Roderick Madison?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm here representing the LEFCO Alumni Association. On November 21st at 8:30 a.m., we're going to partner with the Portsmouth Public Schools Maintenance Department, and we're going to spread mulch at 8 of the elementary schools. So we're here today to ask for you guys as volunteer, for the citizens to come out and help. We're going to start at 8:30 at Churchland Primary, Intermediate, Elementary School. They have 3 areas that mulch has to be distributed to, and then we're going to move about to the other schools. So November 21st at 8:30, we'll be putting it out on Facebook and sending various emails so everybody knows somebody, so somebody can get in touch with somebody to volunteer for that program.
Now, you say this is the LEFCO Leadership Alumni?
LEFCO Alumni Association.
LEFCO Alumni Association,
Yes,
and you're partnering with the school kids in doing this?
The Portsmouth, the maintenance department of the Portsmouth Public
Oh, the maintenance department, okay, and you got 8 schools that you're gonna do the mulching in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, very good, great idea. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mr. Marquise Hunt?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor Simmons, who is not present with us at the moment, City Manager Dr. Patton, City Attorney Mr. Ashby. My name is Marquise Hunt. I'm a 17-year-old senior currently studying at Churchland High School, and I stand before you today with several of my own personal views. I tend to not speak on certain issues, but I have noticed a lot going on in the city over the past several months. There is a group of people who decide to come up and stand before this council and provide what they think are facts, and what they're saying is not always true. It's kind of like the telephone game. You hear one thing from one person, but by the time it comes back to you, it's not even what you said. You have to separate fact from fiction, and you also have to pull out emotion from that. So when you stand before a council, people who vote on certain issues, people who have a lot of say-so, people who can side with you if you come about certain things the right way. Like I stated before, I'm 17, and there are people who may be in this audience that do not understand certain things that I understand at this age. A maturity level, when speaking in front of a council, a government position, as I understand, there has to be some sort of respect along those lines. You cannot stand here and think that you can get change out of things if you keep on, if I disrespect everybody on council, what makes you think that a council member would want to help you out? You all do a great job. I have relationships with several of you on this council. It's hard to see that the city that I live in is a city that where the people who also live here don't appreciate it. You have done several things, and Mayor Wright, I have worked with you on several events that we have had in the city. Sorry, I'm emotional because this is something that is very serious, and people don't actually realize that. People who come up here and say that this council does nothing is false, because when we hold events, they're not there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henry.
Mr. Ty Mutlow.
Marquise is a senior at Churchland High School, and I think you're the young man that invited me to the pep rally. Thank you. And I came, and you were surprised. See what happens when you send the mayor a letter, right? Thank you. All right, Trey. All right. How you doing, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Wright, honorable members. A couple things going on. It's been a while since I've been here. Been laying low. A lot of rumors floating around the city right now. Stuff going on with the golf course. Seems like there's certain members, is what I'm hearing, certain members have pushed the city on to destroy the business down there at the golf course through world-class catering. It's a shame. They're doing their best, but whatever's going on and who's ever pushing the buttons is causing a direct effect on the golf course itself, on us as golfers. And for them to try to control their business and how they operate it, hours, who they can sell to, who they can't sell to, and that's being told, they're getting that from the city. That needs to change. We need to figure out why. You want to bring business in? You don't control a business if you want to bring them in. Secondly, last night in Work Center, some good points made up. I think it's time for the citizens of Portsmouth to realize that everything that was free in the past, because of our financial, may not be free any longer. It just may be a small fee, but we're going to have to pay something. The fees for the youth center is great. $20, $10 for kids, awesome. There's another fee that we need to take a look at, and that's our boat ramp fee. We need to create one. If you can own and operate a boat, you can afford to pay a semi or a yearly fee for us to use it. We can no longer fix that boat ramp at our cost. Not a huge deal. Mr. Whitaker, you brought up a point last night about getting a second chance. I agree. If you may have a record as a kid and you get in trouble in school, yeah, you should get a second chance. The only thing that you were very vague on is what happens if you're a repeat offender even though they're misdemeanors? How does that work? I agree. Everyone deserves a second chance, but it needs to be more detailed. You can't be a repeat offender and then expect a free break at the end and get your record expunged. Now to the good stuff, robotics. Yes, we had 2 schools go up, Churchland and Wilson. Churchland qualified for state. Awesome. We do have a competition coming out. I believe it's the 21st. It's a Saturday. It'll be at Wilson. That is our next chance for the rest of our school teams to qualify. Please, if you haven't seen these things, come out. Watch these robots in action. Watch these kids in action. You'll enjoy it. But as far as the rest of our stuff, we need to get away from the rumors. They are flying hot and heavy.
Thank you.
Mr. Brian Scannell.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I spoke to you a few weeks ago about the disparity study. Was fairly well attacked, but not unexpectedly so following that. I was just going to let that go until I read the paper, where a member of council relayed to a reporter, which was a pleasant surprise that he'd spoke to a reporter, that he knew what was in my heart and in my mind when I did this analysis, and that it was strictly race. So de facto calling me a racist in the newspaper. So we like quotes around here, as I have one for you. Judgment or opinion in the absence of evidence is prejudice. So let me give you a little evidence. During my 22 years in the United States Navy as an electronics technician, I earned my degree while on active duty because I understand for some up here that's a benchmark of intelligence. While I was in the Navy, one of the duties I volunteered for was to be what the Navy calls a CMEO. That's a command-managed equal opportunity manager. I ran the equal opportunity program at a command. I attended training on diversity and discrimination. And one of my duties was to do what's called a command climate survey. Not very different from a disparity study, to determine if there is any inadvertent or intentional discrimination going on in the command, or even any perceived discrimination. And I collected that data and analyzed it and provided a report to the commanding officer of the command on that information. So, to make it very clear, my motivations were not racial and are still not. The only color I'm interested in is the color green. And the only reason I spoke to you was so that we wouldn't waste it. I was glad to hear a couple council members tonight iterate that they'd like to take a look at, possibly at no cost, changing the city codes to alleviate the minor shortfalls identified in the study, as opposed to spending over $100,000 a year with transformational consulting like we do on the school board every year, and deal with it in a manner that doesn't cost the taxpayers. I hope that you follow that to its end. Don't waste any more money doing something that we can simply do ourselves. We don't need to contract an external agency to fix our own problem that we have very clearly identified. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Ms. Pam Clopel.
Good evening. My name is Pam Clopel, and I'm at 501 Elizabeth Place. I'm here tonight to represent People for Portsmouth, and some of the long-enduring ones are still remaining, just like you are. And so I appreciate anyone who's from People for Portsmouth to raise their hand. The city's manual on boards and commissions states that Portsmouth City Council maintains a strong commitment to citizen participation, as evidenced by the large number of boards, commissions, authorities, and committees established by City Council. Council relies on boards to advise them and help them make decisions. Currently, there are 22 unfilled positions on Portsmouth boards and commissions, with an additional 8 becoming open in December. 2 of our boards are in disarray, one causing a lawsuit because it acted against staff advice, and the other because council is disregarding its recommendations. The PRHA Board of Commissioners, on which I served as chair and vice chair for 4 of my 8 years, is now truly a mess. This fall, council chose not to reappoint PRHA's 4-year term vice chair to another 4 years, reportedly because he was a town bank employee. When council made this decision, it also decided not to appoint bankers to any board or commission, so Town Bank would not be singled out. How can we disregard the wealth of knowledge and experience that bankers bring to boards focusing on economic development and commerce? 8 days ago, one PRHA board member resigned, citing, quotes, "This board's leadership does not operate in the best interest of the city," unquote. The current PRHA board is not taking staff recommendations, yet it expects federal dollars, all taxpayers' money, our money, which comes to PRA for other purposes, to pay the more than $80,000 in anticipated legal costs to fight a lawsuit alleging illegal RFP practices. Yet this lawsuit specifically holds the staff harmless 4 different times. PRHA staff did not cause this lawsuit. The board did, by not following staff recommendations to hire 2 law firms for 2 different types of service. This fall, because of board action, PRHA is paying 4 different law firms for legal representation. The Historic Preservation Commission's decisions are to be reflective of local building standards and the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for rehabilitation of historic structures. Members also follow guidelines created by Fraser and Associates, a study costing Portsmouth approximately $87,000.
Good night, Ms.
I will
Coppell.
discuss
Thank you
that
very much.
organization later. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. Hearing Mr. Coppell share some stats with us reminded me of something I just discovered, and that's boards and commissions. Any one of us can have a relative serving on a board or commission. And while that may seem okay, there are boards and commissions that make important decisions with our city. PRHA is one of them. EDA is one of them. PPIC is another. So we need to, I think, as a council, if there's consensus, look at that and put something in our council rules, ordinance, that if you have a relative that you're going to vote to appoint to a board or commission, that you disclose that. I think that should be public information. And in fact, on those boards and commissions, I don't think there should be any relative serving. I think those transactions should be at arm's length, that we should have no contact blood-wise with anybody serving in a capacity that can spend money in this city.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Our final speaker is Mr. Billy Moon. Is he here?
Good evening. I'm going to put a bad point before you tonight. I live in Chesapeake. I called early. I was told since I live in Chesapeake, I had to be last. I don't understand that. I have property in Portsmouth. I could give that address. I could have been first. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, city manager, and city attorney. My name is Billy Moon. I reside at 3912 Anchor Avenue in Chesapeake, Virginia. I own property in Portsmouth. I'd like to bring something to you. Someone in your city. My concerns for a few employees, which has given me the courtesy, the concern, the time in dealing with things that goes on in your city. As I said, it's my city too, because I could be a resident here. But I chose, when I moved to Virginia, I went to Chesapeake. Been there for about 50 years. And I'd like to thank some of those whom have shown me personalism, quality of work, leadership, personal courtesy, and attention during the year. Therefore, I would like to ask you to recognize the following employees: Angela Thomas, Sharon Barnes, Tawana Mills, Glenda Powell, Billy Butt, his name is Holt, Janie Culpepper, Andrea Gardner, Sean Gardner, Michelle Masters, Fred Brusso, who I just heard was leaving. I don't know. Finally, Jamie Crowder. And then the whole of those in the Human Rights Office for their outstanding personal attentions in matters of concern. I thank them. You still got some good people in the city, although you have many of them leaving. I don't know why. It's just abdicating the throne, I guess, to go to other places. I can't understand why they have to go to other places to get other jobs when they're doing such a good job here. Also, Mr. Moody, I'd like to thank you for the personal on-site visitations, seeing what went on my property. Thank you for coming out. Mr. Whitehurst was in that area too. I spoke to him last week per phone. He was a fine councilman. I want to thank you, Madam Manager, for the short time a meeting that you gave to me a couple of weeks ago. You're a businesswoman, you were straight forth. I didn't have time to explain my end of it, but I welcome that opportunity to put forth everything.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day.
All right, good night. No further business, we're adjourned.